What's up, guys? So a lot of you have been actually asking me for a predecessor review of the sorts, right? Now, there's lots to compress, and I will be making a longer format video where I'm going to break down my thoughts along with maybe 2 or 3 other content creators. We'll see how it goes. But in the meantime, I wanted to bring you guys a quick little 5 by 5 positive things that I liked about Predecessor and 5 negative things that I disliked about Predecessor to give them a little feedback. Let me know what you think. So yeah, guys, starting off, I would say probably my first positive was the ease of gaming that Predecessor provided. Now, I actually asked quite a bit of people, both on the experience side and on the, more new player side, people that are still starting to learn MOBAs and etc. And the overwhelming positive remarks that I heard from how easy it was to just start playing Predecessor in game. They could just get into it and have fun. They didn't have to worry about the builds because they had an auto build feature. They didn't have to worry about where to go on the map because they had the guidance and stuff. Last hitting was easier because they had the minion targeting indicator, like their health bar would turn red when they're ready to last hit. So it was very, very easy for people to get into it, and I'll give them props. Now, my second positive thing that I have for them would be the visual effects. Now, I might be the only one. You guys let me know that in the comments, but their visual effects were absolutely beautiful. The way that the Gideon rocks came out of the air, the way Rampage was throwing his rocks, the Grux pull, Drongo's ultimate, whichever event was actually happening, the visual effects were at top notch. I gotta give them props. They were beautiful. They did get a little bit congested because all the, the flashiness, whenever you're in a team fight and everybody's throwing their abilities down, it's honestly sometimes leaving a little bit hard to catch a hero, but still an overall positive as to how beautiful that looked, and that is something that they have in their corner. Now, the third positive I would say was their queue times, quite frankly, because it was one of those things that they announced it early enough that they had a good amount of people ready for the event. Now, granted, it was only a weekend event. The argument could be made that with any weekend event, any of these games would have a good popularity throughout that weekend because everybody's trying it. But it was very, very quick queues and very stable queues. And I will give them credit to the fact that that third-party company, I don't even remember the name, let me know that in the comments. The third-party company that handled the back end did a great job as far as stability. I didn't have a single disconnect. I didn't have a single, I didn't even have allies disconnect, to be honest with you. It's just, hey, once you're in the game, you're in. It was honestly very effortless and it was very smooth. So I got to give them credit for that. Now, number 4 on the positives is going to be great marketing. I will 100% bow down, give mad props to the homie Nabori. Once he came on the team, he has been a storm to be reckoned with. Like, that man has been constantly posting, constantly asking questions, constantly retweeting, constantly engaging with the community. And since he started a good month and a half or so before the stress test, he very effectively created a hype that kept being built up. So by the time they had that 1 week announcement for the weekend event, there were already a lot of eyes coming back towards Predecessor. And when he did the week announcement, even at that point, it was like, hey, now we're sharing clips reminding you of the week announcements. Somebody else has something to share. Bam, we had a couple content creators in here. We're doing the content creator games, and now they get to post before the stress test weekend. And even then, those unique content creators, thank you, by the way, guys, I was one of those unique content creators, send Nabori the clips, and then from there he posts those clips while advertising the stress test weekend. Like, the amount of work that actually went into making sure that the stress test weekend was noticed and very well executed on the marketing side was mind-blowing It was very efficient. Shout out to Nabori, shout out to Predecessor. That was a very, very well executed ramp up to that event. Kudos. And then my number 5, as far as the positives, would actually be the item uniqueness. Now, shout out to Monarch. He was the first one that actually brought this up, and it's a great point. The items in Predecessor, there was enough that you didn't feel like you were missing any, right? But I think that the most important part about the items in Predecessor was their uniqueness to them. The passives or the actives that actually got implemented after you built the item was so unique, you did not feel like you were behind. You did not feel like you were at a disadvantage because you didn't build a specific item. Like, it literally was so smooth. Whether you had Stormbreaker, whether you had, I don't even remember these items names, to be real with you. But whether you had an item that gave you lifesteal, whether you had an item that gave you crit, like whether you had an item that reduced armor on hit effect, each one of them felt unique in their own way, and it felt impactful when you equipped it. So you didn't even really feel like you were behind, and I gotta give them credit for that. For everything from Hellfire with the AoE damage, the moon boots jumping around like crazy. That was my favorite item in the whole game. Their item uniqueness is on point. I look forward to see how they evolve from there and add even more unique items as time goes on. But their items were unique enough that it left a memorable impact on the game, and that's kudos. All right, now what a lot of you have been waiting for, the negatives. Now, my first negative, client prediction system, honestly felt very, very bad. It felt very bad. That's something that Predecessor needs to work on. If you were playing on your own server, let's say I'm North America, Eastern Coast. So if I was playing on NA East, the game felt good. The moment I went to NA West, the game felt so sluggish. I felt like I was 37 years delayed compared to everybody else. Going to EU, oh my God, I couldn't even think to land any abilities. I couldn't even think to land any autos. Like, if you're within your zone, it felt great. The moment that you left your zone and experienced higher ping, it really was a little bit rougher. So I definitely would recommend that Predecessor looks at that client prediction system and refine it by the time of the next test, early access, whatever it may be, because it really was unpleasant whenever you were on very, very high ping. Now, number 2 on the negatives. So it might have to do with the client prediction system, but the ranged autos overall felt sluggish to me. Whether I was on NA East, NA West, EU, etc., when I shot a ranged auto, it honestly felt like there was a micro delay on it. Like, I can't put my finger on it. If I would just single tap, that single tap came out delayed, which made last hitting feel a little weird when you were a ranged character. But besides that, the rest of it felt great. Like, the trick to the range autos for me was I need to hold the left trigger, hold the left click, and then that way I'll get used to the firing pattern and play from there. But that initial first auto made it very, very weird. I don't know if that's from the client prediction system. I don't know if you guys experienced that as well. But me being a carry main, range autos felt very, very sluggish. So I'm hoping that that's something that they can fix down the road. I would relate it to the first Predecessor test that they ever had, the first alpha, where basic attacks felt a little delayed. It wasn't as bad this time around, but there was a slight delay there. So I'd really like for them to fix that moving forward. Now, the third negative is actually going to be the auto builds. Even though I gave them credit for having those auto builds and they were really easy, like it was really easy for players to just get in game, the auto builds honestly were not that great compared to some of the other builds that you can throw on characters. So I definitely would suggest like maybe get some of your top builders within your tester environment and set up unique builds that are very, very strong for each character, so that way, even if you don't know how to build, or if you're not variety building or whatever, you at least have something that is a top-notch build for the beginners, because the beginners are the ones that are going to be using auto builds, right? I noticed that everybody that went on the auto build route, even though it was very easy to play, their building was just very, very unoptimized. I would say arguably mages had the best auto build, but besides that, the auto building honestly did not feel that good. Now, number 4 on the negatives, I would actually say AoE targeting, the sensitivity to be exact. So I had no problem landing abilities. I had no problem casting abilities whatsoever. But whenever, let's say a Gideon Rock came out, right? Like whenever a Gideon Rock targeting was placed, the sensitivity that was assigned for that specific motion, just moving around the rock, felt much slower than the actual aiming sensitivity. Maybe they did that in order so that people could maybe land abilities a little bit easier, so they're not just flicking them all over the place, etc. Maybe they just wanted to stabilize it, but the sensitivity was just off. It felt very slow. I literally would have to like, and I'm traditionally a player that plays on lower sensitivity, right? Whether it's flicking around, whether it's doing a 180, etc. I have my setup to where I can play efficiently. But the moment I had to target these abilities, I was like, damn, I gotta flick the hell out of this mouse just to get that AoE to move up 10 feet. So I will say, I really would like to see them input a sensitivity difference for targeting abilities versus your basic attack. Maybe just having those two on different sensitivities, that would be a really, really nice change. Or overall, maybe just speed up the AoE sensitivity a little bit, so it doesn't feel like it's different from the autos. So it feels like it's almost identical, in my opinion. And then number 5, the last negative I would honestly say was no controller support, no true controller support, right? Like individuals like me have third-party apps on your computer, like DS4 Windows and stuff like that, where you can download it and it tricks your computer to thinking that your controller is a keyboard and a mouse, right? So there are apps like that, but there was no true support through the Steam integration and everything. So there were a lot, and I mean a lot of players that went to play Predecessor and they couldn't enjoy their experience as much because they wanted to play on controller. They downloaded these apps or followed instructions on YouTube and etc., and it was clunky, so that affected their experience. When on mouse and keyboard, it was much smoother. It was a great experience on mouse and keyboard, but there's an astounding amount of the community that just doesn't do mouse and keyboard. And the moment they found out that there was no controller support, that was a big downside for them. So if they do another stress test or if they move forward towards early access, I would love to see them implement controller support. I think that's going to be something massive that's going to help them out. But yeah, guys, so these are my 5 positives, 5 negatives about Predecessor. Again, I will go into deeper thought about my experience and what I expect out of Predecessor down the road in a video that you guys will see where I'm going to collaborate with other content creators. But in the meantime, a quick little 5 by 5. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you agree with my positives or do you disagree? Same thing with the negatives. Did you think I'm just bitching and complaining over here, or was there some truth to what I was saying? Let me know in the comments down below. I appreciate all of you. Leave a like, share the video. The algorithms have been going crazy on these Predecessor videos, so I really do appreciate all of you that have been supporting this content. So make sure that you like it and leave a comment for more. But as always, till the next video.